Background checking is another service that CrimTrac delivers for police and accredited agencies, and these services are used to assess people's suitability for employment, Australian citizenship and appointments to positions of trust. In May of this year, we replaced a paper-based system for doing this work with an electronic national police checking service. And as it says there, you know, we're doing around 2.7 million of these checks every year, and more we're finding that employers will want to do police background checks on potential employees. We do have a couple of projects at the moment, or discussion papers that we are putting to the Board of Management around international exchange, more routine international exchange of criminal history information. And of course these checks are all conducted by consent of an individual who's applying for a particular role and consents with a background check to be done. Automatic number plate recognition. In 2007, CrimTrac was commissioned to do a scoping study into automatic number plate recognition to assess the benefits of the technology to law enforcement and its potential role in building a national capability to look at issues such as road safety, criminal investigations and protecting critical infrastructure. So the scoping study itself was completed in early 2009 and a report has been disseminated to all jurisdictions, and there has been quite a significant uptake since the time of the scoping study's commencement of automatic number plate recognition across, I think now all jurisdictions are using to some extent ANPR technology. We believe, of course, that a national approach would provide significant benefits for law enforcement agencies across the country in terms of identifying and tracking potential vehicles of interest within and across state and territory borders. A national approach could also include coordinated procurement of the technology and present the opportunity for deployment of mobile and fixed cameras to assist with national priorities. For example, deployment of resources to support security at major national and international events, forums or meetings. So there's sort of three ways you can do this. You can have the in-car capability, you can have the fixed side of the road sort of sites, or you can have a portable capability that you could take out and, for example, deploy around this venue for the 2 or 3 days and then pack it up and take it somewhere else. The way it works simply uses optical character recognition on images to read the licence plates of vehicles. You can scan up to about 6 vehicles a second, I think it is, travelling up to 160 kilometres an hour. So we did some work looking at what might be involved with having some form of national capability to look at. We did it across 3 spheres of activity, as I said: national security, criminal investigations and road safety. And of course there would be a different set of operating rules for each of those environments. For example, if you had ANPR deployed around critical infrastructure, that information may be kept for longer and passed to a greater variety of agencies than, say, a capability that was being set up for traffic management. National case management, we're conducting a feasibility study which actually will go to our Board of Management at its last meeting of this year, which is in December. And what we've looked at there is case management, what's involved in case management and case management systems. We've described case management as being the whole sequence of events from an initial call to police for assistance through to forensic processing, conducting an investigation, charges being laid, apprehension and case preparation for prosecution. Now at the moment, each of Australia's police services has its own case management system. They operate largely in isolation, and we have a sort of a limited capability for those systems to interconnect and for provision of a national view. So what we've been looking at the scoping study was what might be required to actually provide that capability. And of course it's far more than just the technical issues that would be involved. There have been a number of senior inquiries, and there's an example of one there which talked about case management systems and them being at present lamentably fragmented in their operation. So if I could give you an example, if today there was an armed robbery in this building and there was a black balaclava and a red Ford involved, there is no single capability in this country that an investigating officer could go to and say, well, for a start, tell me every other armed robbery that was committed today, and secondly, tell me which of them involved a black balaclava and a red Ford. That's the sort of capability that we are talking about here, which is about getting that national view. I showed you earlier a national view of persons. We talked about a national view of vehicles and a national view of firearms. This is simply about a national view of incidents. And this is just an example of some of the case management systems that are out there at the moment. As part of the feasibility study, we did some work for the National Counter-Terrorism Committee to identify the requirements for a national investigations platform for use in terrorism investigations. Of course, the processes used in a terrorism investigation are very similar to those used in the investigation of other serious crimes, and so there was a great synergy there in being able to do that work. So what are we after? How do we break it down? A national view of incidents, identification of links between those incidents, and then a platform on which we could do cross-border investigations. So that feasibility study will go to CrimTrac's Board of Management in December and then ultimately be considered by Australia's Police Ministers Forum and the Commonwealth. And as I mentioned before, of course, the technical issues are but a very small part of what actually will be involved in bringing something together such as this sort of capability. There's a whole range of issues around governance and security and privacy and legislation and training and all sorts of other things. Okay. Just finally, a couple of things on biometrics. Obviously, the ability to identify individuals uniquely and unequivocally is core to the criminal justice system. Identification of arrestees and those associated with crime scenes are obvious examples. And obviously, elimination of people from inquiries and the exculpatory power of biometrics should also be remembered and high in our mind in terms of being able to divert resources and get intelligence to direct lines of inquiry and so on. I think the reality is that biometrics will play an increasing role not only in law enforcement but in society generally. We're currently working on a study on facial recognition, a business case having a look at facial recognition. Existing manual processes, for example, for identifying a suspect from a witness description or a photo board are highly time-consuming and laborious, and as a result are likely to be less accurate. Facial recognition eliminates much of the manual work and allows investigators and witnesses to concentrate on a set of candidate images ranked according to their physical similarity to the description or photo. There are a number of facial recognition capabilities already. New South Wales, Tasmania, Victoria all have capabilities. We're having a look at the possibility of a national capability for facial recognition that would draw from the photographs in our National Police Reference System. Another issue, familial matching. This is searching of a national DNA database at a lower stringency to identify close relatives of an offender when the offender is not present on the system. Again, we've done a discussion paper for the board on this, which is looking at using the National Intelligence Database more as an intelligence tool for directing subsequent inquiries. This has been used to great effect in the UK and also very recently in New Zealand. It would require, of course, a legislative regime or a strong policy framework for actually conducting familial matching searches of the National DNA Database. But again, lots of privacy issues. What do we need to do? We need to promote the debate. We need to have the discussion. Disaster victim identification, I won't dwell on this, I spoke about it just earlier, a very, very powerful tool, and one which unfortunately in Australian policing we've become more and more accustomed to using over recent years. So with that, that's a very quick overview of just some of the systems and capabilities, and thanks very much.